Let me ask you something. What if the biggest thing holding your accounting firm back wasn't your budget or even your client list, but the way your team is actually structured? Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful strategy that kind of flips the traditional firm model on its head. It's about using offshore talent not just to cut costs, but to unlock real scalable growth.
If you're running a small or mid-sized firm, I bet this question feels familiar. Of course you want to grow, right? You want to take on more clients, boost those profits, but it feels like there's this invisible wall that just keeps holding you back.
Well, let's give that pressure a name. We like to call it the small firm squeeze. It's this set of challenges that's so common yet so powerful that it can make that dream of scaling your firm feel totally out of reach.
Does this list look familiar? I thought so. You've got a small, super dedicated team, but they're already stretched thin. Your budget is tight, so bringing on another U.S. staff member is a huge, stressful decision. And all the while, your clients' demands are just getting more and more complex. It's a vicious cycle, you know. An overworked team leads to burnout, and that puts a hard stop on your firm's potential. Okay, but what if you could break out of that cycle? It takes a real shift, not just in what you do, but in how you think about building your team and running your operations.
And this right here is the key. It's a total mindset shift. This isn't about outsourcing just to save a few bucks. It's about looking at offshoring as a strategic tool for growth. Think of it like adding horsepower to your engine. This way, your core U.S. team can finally stop getting bogged down in routine tasks and start focusing on high-value client strategy.
So that's the big idea. But what does this actually look like on a random Monday morning? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how this model can supercharge your firm's day-to-day.
It all starts right here, in the engine room of your firm, the fundamentals. Bank recs, AP/AR, journal entries. This is the essential but super time-consuming work. By handing this over to a dedicated offshore team, you're not just saving a few hours here and there. You are fundamentally changing the daily workload of your U.S. staff.
And listen, this goes way beyond basic bookkeeping. We're talking about specialized, high-stakes work. For firms that are deep in fund accounting, an offshore team can tackle those complex NAV calculations. And when tax season hits, the chaos, they become your secret weapon for audit support. They're preparing work papers, managing sample testing, freeing your team from that seasonal insanity.
This lays it out perfectly. It's a chain reaction. First, you delegate all that time-consuming work. Step 2, that frees up your U.S. staff from the daily grind. And what does that lead to? Step 3, they can finally focus on the things that actually drive growth, like client advisory, strategic consulting, and drumming up new business.
A great strategy sounds nice, but what are the actual results? Let's talk about the real-world payoff for your bottom line and, just as important, for your clients.
Man, this slide just breaks it down so clearly. On one side, you've got the old model. Crazy high labor costs, tons of overhead, a slow hiring process, and all that expensive overtime. On the other side, the strategic offshore model. You get reduced costs, zero overhead, you can scale up almost instantly, and you get to sidestep those brutal busy season staffing costs. The difference is just, well, it's huge.
And here's the crucial point to remember. This is not about finding some cheaper, lower quality option. It's about structuring your firm in a smarter, more cost-effective way so you can get high quality work done and achieve real, sustainable growth.
And this is why it all matters so much. This entire operational shift, it all comes back to your clients. When your U.S. team isn't buried in the weeds, they can respond faster, give deeper insights, and really lean into the strategic advice that builds those bulletproof client relationships. Okay, I know this all sounds pretty promising, but you've probably got some questions buzzing around. Like, is this really practical for a firm like mine? Let's just tackle the most common ones head-on.
This is probably the #1 question we get. Does this kind of thing only work for the big guys, or can a firm with just a handful of people actually make it work?
The answer is a huge, definite yes. You could even argue this model is more powerful for small and mid-sized firms. It completely levels the playing field, giving you the kind of operational power and scale that used to be only for your biggest competitors. All right, so it's accessible. But how long does it take to get up and running? We all want to see a return on our investment. And, we want to see it fast.
You might be surprised by this one. Most firms start seeing real productive results from their offshore team in just 2 to 3 weeks. That's an incredibly fast turnaround from making the decision to actually seeing an impact.
And here's the next big one, always about the bottom line. With budgets being so tight, is this just another expense that a small firm can't afford?
And again, it comes back to that strategic shift in how you think about it. This isn't an added expense. It's a cost reduction strategy. By optimizing your entire workflow, you actually lower your overall operational costs while keeping the quality of your work high. It's about spending smarter, not just spending less.
Finally, there's the capability question. Can you really trust an offshore team with more than just the basics? I mean, what about the complex, regulated stuff that's the core of your business?
Absolutely. And let's be really clear here. We are not talking about data entry clerks. We're talking about trained accounting professionals who know US GAAP, who are fluent in the tricky world of fund accounting, and who are well-versed in audit procedures. This is about adding expertise to your team, not just extra hands.
So, when you boil it all down, what's the key takeaway? It's that this offshore strategy isn't just one little thing. It's a catalyst for everything else. It lets you scale efficiently, which in turn reduces costs, which enhances client service, and maybe most importantly, it frees up your best people to do the high-value work that truly drives your firm forward.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought. Just for a second, imagine your firm without the usual limits, no constraints on staff size or budget. Imagine your team, fully focused on growth and on building amazing client relationships. What could you really achieve?